Hello everyone, and welcome to Keep Up with Pryme. I'm Laura Andradas, Marketing Lead at Pryme Global, and together with Aske Holst, Product Manager at Pryme Global, we will show you some of the application enhancements for both advanced projects and the Pryme apps. We'll also take a deep dive into resource price management, and we'll leave some space at the end of the presentation for the Q&A. So starting with advanced projects, you can quickly find projects on subscription orders by filtering them by the bill to or sell to customer. Then the units of measure on expense sheets, journals, and sales or purchase documents can be changed with automatic conversion based on setup. Apart from this, we have new filters on the invoice suggestion list filter page, which are the posting date and the postpone date. The project task usage value, high or low, will default to timesheets and time journal entries. Sorry, I forgot one. Yeah, the bill to customer, which will stay logged on projects linked to an hour bank in order to keep data accuracy. And lastly, a warehouse put away is created when posting a purchase receipt with inventory reserved to a project. And now moving forward to the Pryme apps and starting with Pryme Fund Management. Now it's possible to include dimensions from the fund, funder, and project when posting commitments and allocations. This provides greater flexibility and accuracy in how dimensions are applied to the fund ledger entries. And last but not least, our newest application, the Pryme AP Automation, which will help you turbocharge your accounts payable in Business Central. Here we have a new simplified approval page for purchase orders, which displays only the essential fields required for approvals and includes a larger PDF viewer. Apart from this, we have new approval workflows for purchase orders. And this will allow users to approve, reject, or delegate both headers and lines directly on the simplified purchase order page. If you would like to know more about this application, I recommend you joining today's live demo this afternoon. And please use the QR code on the slide to register and join us this afternoon. And now I hand it over to Aske, and we'll see each other at the end of the presentation for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So let's jump right into it. And we will start off with the application enhancements for advanced projects. First up is the subscription orders. On subscription orders, we have had the concept of using the bill to customer as the key to finding projects for a long time. As projects are now identified both by a sell to customer and a bill to customer, in some cases, it would make more sense to use the sell to customer as a filter. So in this case, I have a subscription order. It is for a Datum Corporation. And if I filter the projects either on the header or on the lines, it will show all the projects where a Datum Corporation is a sell to customer. So this is the new default. This can be changed back to the old behavior using this checkbox, use the bill to customer. And so you can check that. And if I now do a filtering, we will see that this is slightly different. There's not much of a difference here because a Datum Corporation is the customer on most of these projects. On existing projects, this will be automatically changed, automatically set to be true in order to not change the logic for subscriptions order you already have, but you can then change it back. And if we create a new purchase order with another customer, let's take Trade Research instead. I see if I use the standard setup, I get demo 2 as my possibility. But if I set the use the bill to customer, then I'll see it's demo 4. So it changes how it filters. Now there can be cases where changing this setting would cause a conflict. And in that case, there will be a warning telling you need to take care because you could have multiple projects with a certain sell bill to customer, but they all have different sell to customers. And if you change this, it would be impossible to select projects going forward. So we do check for that. Next up is unit of measure for expenses. And so we have now the same logic on expenses that we've had on items and resources for a very long time. Expenses were mostly thought to be non-countable, so there wasn't really a need for unit of measure, but we have added that now. So if I have an expense sheet here for hotel, I have it set at quantity 1 and the unit of measure is day. My price per day to the customer is 100. Now I can use different units of measure and I could change this to a week instead. And because I've said that a week is 7 days, it will recalculate that into 700. So that is a new logic. It works on expense sheets, in journals, on orders, etc. Very similar to what you're used to from items. Next up is new filters on the invoice suggestion filters page. So we added some filters on invoice suggestions in a previous release. That was not carried over to the invoice suggestion list filtered, but now you can use them on the filtered list where we can see here that I have an amount of 20,120. But if I now add a filter for the postpone date filter, I can filter out the entries that are postponed. And so I only want to see what is up until today. And we will see that this amount now changes because I've put in a total filter. So you have the possibility to filter out on postponed entries. You could also do it on the posting date, for instance. So these are some of the new total filters you can use in the invoice suggestion list filtered. We have made some changes to the hour bank logic, where in the past, if you created an hour bank, that would be linked to a bill to customer. And if I open up my list of hour banks here, so my hour bank list, I can see I have an hour bank here, and it is for the customer 10,000 at Datum Corporation. That is one thing. But it is also related to some projects. It's related to the Demo 3 project. And so that could create an issue if I now change the customer number on this on Demo 3 to be a different customer than the one on the hour bank, because they would no longer connect. So the new logic is if I open up my Demo 3 project, go to the project card and say, I would like to change the customer on this one to be Trade Research instead. And that could either be, it's actually not the sell to customer that matters. It is the fact that I'm going to change the bill to customer. It will tell me that you cannot change the bill to customer number because there is our bank associated with this project. So a bit more of a safety net being put in there. Some small changes at the end. Project task usage. So that is the capability to say high value or low value on entries. And that is as a substitute for chargeability of entries. That now defaults when you create direct journal entries. So small change. And for the warehouse putaways, for those that use that, they are now created if you post a purchase receipt and there is inventory on that purchase receipt that is reserved to a project. So it's a quite narrow use case, but a very important one for those that require warehouse putaways. Moving over to Pryme Fund Management, we have extended the dimension logic when posting commitments, reservations, and usage, which we collectively call allocations. So if I go back and I look at some of the posting we are doing. Within funding, I have my fund commitments. If I create a new fund commitment in here, that will be for a specific funder, and the lines will be for a specific fund. And each of the funder and fund can, of course, carry dimensions. We see them there. And that is not really changed. The logic is that we are now using source code, so you can change the dimension priorities and how the dimensions are applied. That also applies to the usage and the reservations, etc. And all of those, of course, connected with source codes. So if we open up our source code setup, we have a section down here for the source codes for fund journals, fund commitments, fund reservations, and fund usage. And I can, of course, set up default document dimensions. So if I take, or dimension priorities, I should say. So if I open up my default dimension priorities, I can see here the fund usage. I've now defined that the dimensions from the project will take priority over those from the fund, and that will take priority over the dimensions from the customer. So you can set up the dimension priorities in funding. For AP Automation, I will not go into the details of this. There's a great demo this afternoon. I think it is at 4 o'clock Central European summertime. That would be 3 British summertime. I really recommend you join that if you haven't seen the demo of AP Automation yet. But we're still making a lot of improvements. In this case, it is a new simplified approval phrase for purchase orders. We already had one for purchase invoices, so we're expanding the scope here. And there are also new approval flows for purchase orders, not just purchase invoices. So if I look up here and I look up workflows or workflow templates, and I could actually search for Pryme in here. That's the best way to find the Pryme ones. I can see that not only do I have for credit memos and invoices, but I also have purchase order approval flows, and even for the line level approval, which is one of the great features of our AP Automation solution. You can do line level approval on your purchase invoices, on your purchase orders, so you can split them up and have different people approve the different parts. And we also enable that to be not only be defined by who's the salesperson, but also who's the project manager. So using AP Automation together with our solutions for project management, like Progresses, is a really powerful combo. There are not many other products out there that will actually do both line level approval and connect it up with the projects. So join the demo this afternoon. And so that brings us to the end of the demo part. From here, I will switch over to the deep dive topic of today, which is resource sales pricing and sales price updates. With projects, you can define the prices for resources. So on this project, by default, there are no prices. It will use a pricing setup that is global to all projects, but I can define a specific price on this project. So I could say that from January 1st of 2024, there is a special price on this for the group of consultants. And let's give them a price calculation of 97. That is our new price. And so we're creating a special price for this particular project for a given time, meaning anything after January 1st of 2024. Now, this is all nice and good. And of course, you can create prices, but prices have a tendency to change. So what I recommend doing is creating price templates. And we can create a price template out of the pricing that we have done here already. So I could save this as a template, and I will call this special A. And this is now my time price template. So I've saved my special pricing into a template. I could open up my price template and make changes to it. I'll find it under the template setup and see that I have my special A, and it says that from January 1st, 2024, we have this special price. So this is now a template that I can reuse on multiple prices. I could also update this with additional lines. So I expand on my template and say also for project managers, there is a special rate. And maybe this special rate is 107. So I now have two prices on my price template. And I can reuse this on multiple projects. So if I go back to my list of projects, I could say on demo 2, I would like to set up my resource prices, and I will get my template, and the template I want is the one I just created, and we'll create these two lines. So now these are the prices. What happens when the prices change at the beginning of 2025? Do I update my price template? Do I go to all the different places and say get template? No, of course not. I can use some logic to do that. That is found in the processing area under sales price updates. And there are multiple steps here. And this is the part where we need to think about what prices are we updating. First of all, we need to update prices themselves. Then as a second step, we can update the prices on the projects. And then thirdly, we can update prices on existing entries if we forgot to update the prices in time. And if I'm creating the pricing now for 2025, we might need to update some existing entries with the current prices. So opening up this as a first step, this is where I can set new prices. So running calculate resource sales prices, I can decide to either update just the prices that are specifically set on a project, or only update the templates, or update both. And in my case, I'll only update the templates. Then I can set an effective date. When should this apply from? And I could say this applies from January 1st of 2025. I can select a rounding method if I want to round my timing, my pricing, and I can decide to either set a new price or change it by an amount or a percentage. In this case, I'll use the amount adjustment and say I will add £5 to all my prices, but it could also be a percentage-wise update or a specifically new price. And then I can run my update. So it will suggest me to say for these template lines, the current price is 97 and the new price will be 102. And I'm satisfied with that. So I can apply these new prices. I can also actually go in and adjust and say, well, I would like to change this slightly, but I'll be satisfied here. So I'll apply these new prices. So now my template, if I open it up, has new prices in it. So in my template setup, I will find my sales price templates, and I will see that I have lines for starting on January of 24 and of 25, 24 and 25. So it adds new lines to these with the new prices. With this, I can then, of course, apply these templates. But even better, I could say, well, I have projects that are using these templates, so why not do this automated? Again, I will use my features in here in the sales price update and say update prices from template. And what I can do here is I can load existing prices, saying everything for the specification A, I would like to find all the prices that are used from that. And these are the entries it finds where it says there are some existing prices and there's some news to be added. And the new ones it will add is, of course, the 2025 pricing, where it will set new prices. And so I can apply those price updates. So this goes across all the projects, meaning if I'm using templates to set my prices, I only need to update my templates, and then I can update all the prices from those templates. The last step would be the update of existing entries. And for that, I can use the transaction maintenance journal. The idea here being, if I have transactions that should be updated by a certain date, but I forgot to set the price list, I can pull in those entries. And that could be because I simply had the wrong price in the price list, or I forgot to create a new price list for a new period. For this, I can decide if I want to include transactions that are already on open documents. I generally recommend not to do that, but there can be cases for it. And I must set a filter for what entries I want to include. It will not allow me to just run a blank filter, because that would basically take every single project ledger entry in the system and update the price. And that is too much of a risk. So you must put in a filter. I generally recommend, if you don't have a project number filter, at least make sure you have a posting date filter. So I could say I only want to update what is from January 1st and going forward. And so I can set a project number filter in here. I could also set it as asterisk. That means all projects, but I must put in some kind of filter here. This is important. If I don't do this, it will not allow me to run. And so in this case, there were new entries, so that's fine. Let's cheat a little bit and say, I actually want to update the prices from whatever is from last year. So everything up until January 1st of this year. And there it said, I must put in a project number filter. So that's a tricky one. You must put in this project number filter. So putting in asterisk to make it happy, and then saying everything up until January 1st. And here I find a lot of entries. So it's pulling in all the existing entries and finding out what the existing price was. So we can see here that the original unit price was 100, and it will recalculate that and say the new unit price will be 97, giving a new total price. So you have all these details of what the price adjustment will be. You can remove lines from in here. If we don't want to update the prices on some of these lines, we can simply delete them from in here, say we don't want to do these price updates. And you can also manually override the new pricing. So for special cases, I could put in that this should have a different new unit price. I generally don't recommend doing that, but it is possible. The rule is you can only pull up prices where there is an actual change. So you cannot use this to just load in all the transactions where there are no price changes suggested and then manually adjust the prices. There must be a new price list. It will not include entries where the price will not be changed. After doing this, I can post a price adjustment. And important to know is that the price adjustments are kept on the entries in a separate ledger entry. So if I go in here and I look at my project ledger entries where they have changed, I could see here that for some of these, let's find a random entry in here. If I look at the price in here, it will now say, let's see, where do we have the The price is here. So let's see if we can find something that was changed. So here is something where the price was changed. If I look at the ledger entries behind this, there are the detailed ledger entries. We should see that there is a separate line for the price adjustment. So we had an original project entry. In this case, we actually invoiced part of this and then credited again. Doesn't matter for this case, but the price adjustment is a separate line that only highlights the difference in pricing. In this case, we actually changed the price by 16 for the total price, and that is the price change that is happening. So you can always find what the original price was. That's all I had for today's deep dive.